All right, guys. Well, welcome to the Tuesday Notary Titans with Laura Biewer, Carol Ray, and myself. My name is Bill Soroka. I am the founder of NotaryCoach.com and the Sign and Thrive Notary Training Course and Community. Laura, can you tell us a little bit about yourself as well? And tell us, too, is there anything happening that you're excited about this week?
Oh, gosh, I'm excited about a whole bunch of stuff. It's 2019. It just started with a bang, and it's rolling on. One of the things I'm very excited about is I will have a new website, which, surprise, surprise, was already active before I was even aware. But I've moved all my coaching related materials to a coaching website. So when people want to, they don't need me as a mobile notary, they need me as a coach. They can go to a notary coach for the number 4u.com. So I'm excited about that and getting my coaching part more identifiable and separate from my actual mobile notary business. And as anybody's even just trying to start their own business, it's like starting all over again for me, but building that. So I feel everybody's pain when they're trying to develop a website and trying to develop new collateral and all of that. So exciting, exciting, exciting. And I'm excited to be here this morning with everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait to see where you go with that, the coaching side of that even further in the website. I got the first peek at it, I think, yesterday as I was looking at it. So looking really good. And thank you for taking some time out of your day to be here. We're glad to have you. I know you've been teaching the last few weeks.
I have been steady.
Yeah, that's great. And then I'll wait till Carol comes on. She's definitely got some computer issues happening right now that we'll talk about, plus some internet concerns, I think. But for me, I'm real excited speaking to what Laura's talking about, websites and search engine optimization and all that stuff that comes along with starting your business. It can be really overwhelming and even expensive for a notary. So we have been, as part of just this community and the notary community, we've been running search engine optimization training every Wednesday with Green Monkey Marketing. And tomorrow I'm real excited because we have the founder of Green Monkey Marketing. He's joining us for a live training tomorrow where we're going to do kind of a recap and overview of where we're at so far with search engine optimization. It's free and open to everybody. If you'd like to pop in and visit and get some really good live training from Tyler, you can go to notarywebsite.com and just register for that, and we'll send out the call information for you. So why don't we go ahead and jump in. We'll get started without Carol for right now. I'm sure she's going to join us here pretty quick. We have some pretty amazing questions already submitted via email, and we really appreciate that. But since you're live on the call with us, is there any question, if you haven't submitted it already, is there a question or a concern or anything that we can possibly help out with? Feel free to raise your hand using the technology, unmute yourself and just ask away, or use the chat window. Anybody live on the call with anything? I know it takes a few minutes to warm up and get that courage to hit unmute, so we'll wait for you.
Yes, hi. My name is Nicole. I'm new to notary. I just received my commission actually, and I'm trying to see if becoming a signing agent would be beneficial, and how it would be, and what your company would do to help direct me into that business.
Absolutely. So Nicole, thanks for joining us. I'm glad you found us. What state are you in?
I am in Illinois.
In Illinois. All right. Wonderful. So Laura, why don't you take this and maybe we can tag team it.
Okay, so if you're right in the very beginning and you haven't really started business yet, I think jumping right into NSA, and a lot of notaries do, and it's fine, but my perspective is to try to get some experience on notarizing documents and starting small. So if you want to dive in, say with mobile notary work where you don't have to get an extra certification, that would be a place I would start to get some experience. And then for the NSA, I would talk to maybe some other notaries even on this, that come to this call, or Carrie, I believe, is right in Chicago, Rivera, and she runs the reviews, Good, Bad, and the Ugly Facebook page. And she could probably tell you about your particular area specifically better than I can. I'm out here in California. But certainly, I believe there's opportunity for both. It's just that how do you want to start? And I always like to start with getting experience and feeling confident that I understand the basics of notarization before I get into something bigger like presenting documents to signers.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I'll kind of toggle with Laura. I kind of have both similar and opposite perspectives, and a lot of it I think is a very personal decision as well. So you know your situation, and in Illinois, you know you've got some limitations more so than some of us in other states as far as fees we can charge for general notary work. So it's pretty limited in Illinois. Still possible to add on for mileage and things like that and make a decent revenue. But in my experience and what I've heard from students and people across the country, of course, but in Illinois, is that the loan signing pays better than general notary work in that particular state. So if I was in a position where I had to start earning some money so I didn't have to go back to a job, I'd probably jump into loan signings.
Yeah, then I would.
Yeah. And then if you would like to talk about how we can help, you know, actually Laura has awesome one-on-one coaching. Carol Ray has an entire course that can teach you the loan signing, as do I at Sign and Thrive. So if you'd like to set up a call with me just one-on-one, I do these calls for free, guys. Notarycoach.com, up in the upper right-hand corner, it says book a call with Bill. Just book a call with me and I can talk business all day long and we can hash it out and see if it's a good fit for you. Thank you for the question, Nicole. Really appreciate that. All right, who else? Laura, are you seeing any good questions in the chat window by chance?
No, not yet. I'm seeing what people are doing.
Thank you.
Okay. And they responded about the mobile notary.
All right.
We could always jump back to some live questions.
Yeah, we'll do that.
We don't have anything yet.
So I've got plenty of questions in the little presentation that I have here. So bear with me one second. We'll get this thing going. Bam. All right. Okay, this is a good question we hear all the time regarding the right to cancel. In Texas, the right to rescind, usually found with cash outs. There was some confusion about what to do with the quote unquote extra copies. I know the answer, but it might be a good thing to discuss. And what I think she is talking about in particular is that you'll see that there are usually 2 or 3, sometimes 6 of these right to cancels in a loan document package. Laura, can you kind of share your insight on how this should be handled?
So the way I've been directed is that I give the required copies to each of the signers at the table, and anything beyond that goes back to the package, no matter how many there are. So if each signer needs 2, that's 4 of them. And if I have 8 of them, I've had 10 of them before. All of them are executed, every single one, and they all go back into the package to go back. So that's how I've done it. And that was from some instructions from a couple different signing companies.
Yeah, that's a good general rule of thumb. If you try to apply logic to this particular part of the loan package, it's going to drive you up the wall because it doesn't always logically make sense. There might be up to 10, sometimes 5 per borrower.
Yeah.
Somewhere in their legal team, they have decided that that's what they have to do to comply with federal regulations, or it's just a mistake. But either way, if it's in the loan package, we should have it signed and dated. And if you ever have a question about where to decide how many to leave with the borrower, they're actually signing a document that usually tells you how many they have received. It might be 2, it might be 3. It's usually 2 per borrower. Sometimes it's only 1. So that's how you can kind of decide how many need to be left behind with the borrower. The important part here is, and I know, first let me say that if some people pull the copies from the borrower package and leave those, that's like a double, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can't over disclose typically, but just keep in mind that every document, in order to be valid, has to be fully executed. Right. So just leaving a blank copy with them does not fulfill the responsibility. It has to be signed and dated appropriately. So if in the event that they actually do decide to use that right to cancel, and fax it in, it has to be fully executed. So that's what we're there to make sure of. Anything else on that, Laura?
Bill, I just want to add two things. One is, I love that you highlighted that they have to be executed copies. So I make sure that they have executed copies. The second thing is, we'll drive ourselves crazy when we try to figure out why something's a duplicate, triplicate, however many they want of the same kind of document. And it's not our job to understand why they need so many. Our job is to make sure that we get them all executed, we keep them into the package, and we get them back to them. And so when we start thinking, well, they don't need this, that must be an accident. No, it's our job to take care of all of it and send it all back.
Exactly. All right, next up. This says for Bill, I'm a new signing agent. In one of your videos, you state that one of the 4 things you do when you leave a signing in the car is send copies of IDs, invoices, and thank you cards. How do you send these? Are we supposed to take a picture of the borrower's ID with your phone? And are there certain sites you use to send invoices and thank you cards to? I know there's going to be lots of opinions on this, so I'm just going to share my experience, and then Laura, I'd love to hear yours as well.
Sure.
So for me, we'll actually be talking a little bit about this today in information security. Are we supposed to take a picture of the borrower's ID? That is client specific. Some title companies, some signing companies specifically tell you not to do that. And then I have some clients that they tell me that I need to do that. Now the workaround there, and the most secure way, is to have the borrower make their own copies of their IDs and include that with the loan package. Is that always possible? No, because borrowers are in their own transitions. Sometimes they are moving and they don't have their printer hooked up. There could be a variety of reasons. So if my client requires a picture of the ID to move forward, I've got to fulfill that requirement. And if I take a picture with my phone, then that responsibility is on me, which I don't necessarily like, but sometimes that's the way it is. Some clients give me a secure portal where I can upload that ID. Some send a secure email. The point is, whatever I have to do with it, I have to make sure I delete that information so it's not vulnerable down the road. Then as far as invoices, I'm kind of old school. I've been using the same company since I started this business 7 years ago, and it's GoDaddy Bookkeeping. In fact, it was a different company then, and GoDaddy bought it. I do that because I don't have time for a learning curve to learn something new, but there are some better options out there. In fact, there are some notary specific options out there that I'll let Laura speak to. And then it comes to thank you cards. This is huge, guys. You can choose to handwrite them, or there are smartphone applications out there that make this super easy to do, which is kind of the key to making sure that you do it. I use sendoutcards.com. They have a smartphone app that allows me to customize and even add pictures. But now there's also a technology called TouchNote that allows you to do just about the same thing and send those cards. So you type it in, you type what you want, it looks like handwriting, and they ship it and send it from somewhere else. And it costs you, I think, less than $3 to send that out. Laura, what do you have to add on that?
So, one, on the IDs, so I don't take pictures. If they need a picture, I ask the borrower to take their own picture on their own phone and send it to where I have to send it, so that they get it, but it's through their own telephone, and then they can decide how secure it is to keep it on there. I just will not do it. The second thing is for invoices and tracking and all of that, I use notaryassist.com. It was developed by a signing agent about 10 years ago. And it's fabulous. And the reason I think it's fabulous is that it's intuitive, it's simple, it's straightforward, it follows what our business does. And it is in the cloud. It's pretty inexpensive. It's probably about $80 a year to maintain that. And it allows you to run reports. So I can run a report who owes me money. I can run a report what's the value of the notary part for tax purposes. I can run a report on expenses by category. I can do income by customer to see who's giving me the work. So that's why I like it. And there are some other ones out there besides, good morning, Carol, besides that one, but that's the one that I'm pretty loyal to. Sue Hope is the owner of that in Southern California. and she just does a great job of listening to notaries. And then the last, I think, part was, and so my invoicing, I don't do in the car after I get out of that appointment. I take care of that business at the end of the day. The last part was the thank you cards. I think it's called sendcards.com. is an electronic way to easily put customers in and send a card. Another way, of course, is to handwrite those cards. And I have recently moved from emailing when I want to do a special thank you, and I do it in the mail because I think it stands out from everything else. And I don't send thank you cards for every single thing. Those cards are a little bit more special. The electronic emails, I'll use that for more everyday thank you. But when I want to make it special, I send a card.
Wonderful. Great feedback. Carol, welcome. Can you hear us?
She's muted.
Yeah, I don't think she can hear us. So I'm going to go ahead and keep her muted. Yeah, she can't hear anything. It's going to work that out. We'll continue on here. We got some great questions here, so bear with me. All right. Does anyone really use their fax anymore? I haven't used mine in 6 months, and I think it's an expense not bringing a return. I'm sure, like everyone else, I scan and email the documents. Is it time to disconnect the fax number? Laura, what do you think?
Well, I do use faxing, but remember, my business is bigger than NSA. I can't, for NSA work, it's occasional. If I'm having a problem with the scanning function, then I will do the fax number instead, but that's pretty rare for NSA work. But for mobile work, I do use it, actually. So I keep a fax. I have a separate fax line. I've always had one. And then my husband actually uses it as well for his business. So we need to have one. I can't give it up.
I gave up mine a long time ago because I never used it. But one thing that is kind of cool is GoDaddy, and I'm sure other services do too, but I got all my domains through GoDaddy, and they actually have e-fax options, your own number, and you can actually email them to a fax number. It made it really easy, and it was super inexpensive. Maybe that's helpful for you as well. All right, let's get to the next question here. I'm not sure if you folks have shared your thoughts on the e-sign scenario that is starting to spread across the country. I believe it will take a few years for it to take effect in many states. Will it eventually replace many of the mobile notary signing agents? Laura, I'd love to hear your take on this.
You know, what a great question. Well, I'm going to tell you that let's break it down into two things. One is there's e-sign, which still would require a mobile notary, because you have to have physical presence in order to conduct an e-signing where you're with the borrower. And I think that's going to spread across the country. And I think that's just going to make our work easier in the end and quicker in the end and with less errors coming over to us. Let's take the next part, which would be remote notarization. I am not a fan particularly of remote notarization. I have seen it work. The technology is smooth. I can appreciate it. But the way I've seen it happening in some states is that they become, somebody owns the technology and the platform, you sign up to them and you do it from home and you're kind of stuck with a headset on taking appointments. And that, you know, I could work in a call center and do that. So I'm not as interested in that. And I'm in California and will probably be the last state to ever adopt that. So I'm not too worried about it out here. But back east, you know, they're doing it. And maybe on our call today, do we have anybody that's actually doing remote notarization? Because they might be able to speak to it better than I can. But remote, yeah, you wouldn't really need a mobile notary for NSA if everything's remote.
This is Wanda. I used to work for Notaries.
Okay, Wanda.
The remote notaries were all general notaries, and they are still all general notaries.
Okay.
The ones that are doing loan signings are in, they have to actually go into the office of Notarized and do it. They aren't doing it remotely at home. So, but the ones that are doing it on the remote being at home, they have to be, they have a schedule. They aren't, so like, and you pick your schedule, and and the team that does it, it's a small group of us, what was a small group, it's still a small group. If I need to take off for a minute, I get someone to take over for me. Or, hey, I've got to, I can get up, I don't have to sit on the computer the whole time. I get up and walk around my house. I'm doing so I can hear the computer when it rings.
So how does payment work for that, Wanda?
They do it online, and then they pay us
directly.
They do everything's through Notarize. Everything, they come through Notarize. Notarize, you have, and Notarize isn't like we're a vendor, but they pay us at the end of the week, at 2 weeks.
Are you paid per for your work, or are you paid at just an hourly rate? That would be
I don't know how they're doing it now. It's changed up now. We're paid both, kind of.
Okay.
So we're paid for sitting there. We aren't just paid for the notary.
Gotcha. Okay, good. Well, that's interesting. So, and I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges for adoption across the board with notaries, because I'm right there with you. I started this business and I stayed in this business because of the flexible schedule, the unlimited income, and the legitimacy of the business. You start taking that away, it starts getting less appealing. So I think there's going to be some ways to work around that. I'm actually working with a technology company that's trying to bridge that gap right now too. So hopefully I'll have some good news for you down the road. But the other thing is too, speaking to exactly what Laura said, I think there are some states that are going to be really slow in adopting this, because I think we have a little bit of a learning curve. There are going to be people who try to take advantage of the remote notarizations. So I think we're going to see some interesting cases that pop up. Also, I encourage if you're in a state that allows this, jump up on the curve, be part of the forward movement on this. Don't tuck your head in the sand. Get some training, because what I'll tell you right now is that even in states where this exists, nobody's an expert. They're starting to kind of evolve into it now, but even when you call the state, the people who are regulating this, nobody knows what's going on. So there's a huge opportunity to be way ahead of the curve on this and really tap into a market for not only leading the way with consumers, but maybe teaching and helping guide other people in this process. The other thing that I wanted to say is, went away. If it comes back, I'll let you know. Right now, guys, it's 9:23. We have a special guest who's going to pop in at 9:30. We have a special personal security expert who actually travels the country leading realtor and notary personal security trainings. So he knows exactly what to do to help you stay safe in what you do. We'll introduce him in just a couple of minutes. But right now, we'll just kind of maybe segue into the presentation portion of the call, where Laura, Carol, and myself are going to talk a little bit about information and personal security. So as we get started, I'm going to kind of lead off with why this might be important to you. I know in a lot of ways, information security is pretty common sense. But there's a federal law that requires that we adhere to certain rules that kind of explains why we have to answer questions on signing company applications or title company applications the way that we do. And it kind of also explains what we're responsible for. Now, Carol, you're back.
I'm sorry. I couldn't get in this morning. Zoom wouldn't let me in. And then I had no microphone.
And then so now you're back up. You're fully ready to go.
Yeah, and I'd like to say something really quick about this notarization thing.
Yeah.
I think I've talked to you guys about it. When they first came up with Notarize, and I think Wanda is one of my graduates, they came out here, the people that created the software came to my home, discussed what they were doing, showed me the software because I was very much against it, and wanted to use our graduates to do it. So I've kind of been privy of watching what's going on and how they handled it. And one of the things that they are doing in particular that everybody should be aware of, just like Wanda said, they're starting to put people who are doing loan signings into a building. They are hiring them, paying them a wage, as I understand it, and they are becoming employees rather than what they're doing now, which is to sit in their homes or be in their cars and having access to those phone calls and handling the notarizations. It's this particular company is changing. Yeah.
We can't sit, they cannot sit in their car. They have to be at home.
Oh, I thought it was if they were out and about.
The notary has to be at home. The person can be in the car, but we make them pull over.
Okay. But what they're turning to now is they're turning into hiring employees, putting people into a situation where they're hourly people, from what I understand, Wanda. Is that correct?
That I don't know how they're working with the ones in Arlington. I am in Virginia, so I'm not up in Arlington, but the ones up that way, I don't know how they're doing it, how they're paying them at all. I don't know, because I was a remote notary for them. I just did the remote.
Anyway, that's all. I just want to interject that so everybody's kind of aware of what's going on, at least with Notarize.
Yeah, exactly. And it's and I see somebody just kind of making the point here. Every industry does evolve and change, and I think it takes certain companies or individuals to really spearhead major change. And I think we've got a company called Notarize that is doing that right now. Are we going to like everything that they do? Of course not. There's no possible way they can please everybody, but they're kind of blazing the path, and they're showing innovators, maybe like you and I, what works and what doesn't work, and what the notaries enjoy doing and what they don't enjoy doing. I think I'm right there with Laura, Carol, and probably most of you. I think they're missing the mark by creating an employee environment or a call center environment. Because that takes away a lot of the joy and the power of this. Oh, the other thing I was going to say, I'm so glad that you brought that up, Carol, because it led back to this. Oh, shoot. Okay, I got it back. These remote notarizations and these e-notarizations, if you've ever actually done one or seen one demonstrated for you, they're still pretty clunky. There is, for information security, you have to go through a series of security things. You have to click links, you have to upload documents, and there is a huge population in the US that you can't even, open an email sometimes. So there's going to be plenty of market for the live one-on-one. And I think industry as a whole is coming back to physical live people. We're missing that connection anyway, so I think there's a huge value there. But even me, I'm not a technologist by any means, but when I'm doing the test run and I have to wait for an email, if it doesn't come, I have to check my spam folders, and then I have to click this link, and then I got to take a picture of my ID. I got to upload that. I got to stare at the camera just the right way so it does facial recognition. It's not as smooth as it might be in 10 or 20 years.
Right.
All right, guys, that brings us right up to the 9:30 time, and we do have a special guest. Let me see if he's
not on
with us. You guys see Gary? Let me see. Gary, can you hear me? Yes, there he is. Gary, I'm going to unmute you. Gary, are you with us?
I'm with you. Do you
Gary,
have my feed?
I have your feed. I don't have your face. Can you turn your camera on for us? Here, I'm going to send you a request to start your camera. So we've got a feed now, but it looks like maybe you have a sticker over your camera, maybe?
Nope. Nope, and my box, the camera box is black.
Yeah. What's
Did he
funny
start
about
video?
We did a trial run last night to make sure everything works. Remember this, Carol?
What, are you talking to me?
Yeah, everything worked perfectly. No. Remember when we did our tests? Yeah. I'll tell you later. Yeah, we did the test run. Everything worked great until now that we're here and it's not. So Gary, all we have is your voice. So
well, that may have to suffice this morning.
I think we'll have to make that work. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your very busy day. I know you're out helping so many realtors and notary signing agents in your career in personal security. You have over 30 years. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and then maybe share with us how we can protect ourselves?
Yeah, retired police officer, security specialist, licensed private investigator, 20 years investigative service of experience, 30 years of security experience. And last year, I put together what started as a safety program for real estate agents that morphed into something for notary as well. Laura had me come to the symposium up in Sacramento in November, where I spoke to a great group of folks. And the whole thing has just kind of snowballed in a really good way. From the realtor side, right now in Colorado, there's a male-female couple that are hunting and targeting female real estate agents in their situations of hosting open houses and showing homes. So it's a present day situation that is impacting folks all across the country. And with notaries going mobile, it impacts them as well. In a lot of cases, you're walking into somebody's residence and you're not really sure of your surroundings because you've never been there. So what I wanted to touch on this morning was situational awareness. Situational awareness is simply the art of being aware of your surroundings, taking the time to scan your immediate area and beyond for anything that would represent a threat to your well-being. When you walk into someone's, well, let's back up. When you're pulling up with your vehicle, you want to check the neighborhood. Are there folks loitering around? Is it easy to park? Can you strategically park? And by strategically parking, I mean, can you park in such a way that if you had to make a quick exit, you could do so? The best way to do that is to pull up curbside to the apron of the driveway, because nobody parks in the entrance to the driveway. Nobody's going to parallel park there. Nobody is going to usually park across the sidewalk and block you in unless that's their intent. So that provides for a real easy exit. If it's a cul-de-sac and curbside parking is limited, you can park in the driveway, but back in. Don't pull in nose first. Back in so that if you have to make a quick exit, you have a clear 180-degree view of the street. You know whether you can easily go left or right to get out of there. Upon entering the house, you want to immediately scan the area. Is there anybody else in the immediate area? Anybody that you can hear in back rooms? Does the individual who's inviting you into the home, when they shut the door, do they deadbolt it? Do they put a chain lock? You know, a lot of people aren't paying attention. They're looking for the table. Where do I set up? How do I start getting my gear out? I've got this case with all of my little stuff in it that I need for the signing, for the notary. And they go right to setting up. They don't notice that the individual who shut the door locked it, double locked it, or even triple locked it. That would be a big red flag for me. And I would immediately ask them to undo those locks. If they didn't undo those locks, then I'd be leaving. I don't want to be locked in there. I understand that folks want their homes to be secure, but look, I'm only here for a short time. We have some business to conduct, and then I'm on my way out of here. And you don't want any difficulty in getting out of that door if you have to.
Hey, Gary, while you're still in the doorway there, can you tell us a little bit about what you might do to inform loved ones or whatever your chain is before you even get to the appointment?
You know, there are lots of apps that you can utilize, or you can simply send a text message. The Waze app, which is a mapping app, has a feature on it that you can send your route and destination to a second or third party. In doing so, they know when you arrive. They get a notice that you've arrived at that location. You can easily send a text to a second party with the address. I have arrived. I expect to be here no more than 30 minutes. At the 30-minute mark, you can have somebody, that second or third party, give you a call just to check in. And if they're going to do that, you need to have some kind of a code word that doesn't tip off, for lack of better terms, the bad guy. that you can say to that party to let them know that you're not okay. So you develop something like that. That's your signal. Somebody calls it the 30-minute mark or whatever the mark is that the two of you mutually agree upon.
Awesome. Good information. So back to the signing appointment. Now we're aware of what's going on.
You want to sit, if possible, with your back to a wall. And by doing that, you put the rest of the room in front of you so that you can see all individuals coming into your area and approaching you. If you have your back to the open area, you're facing the wall, it's possible for somebody to get into close proximity with you and you not be aware of them until it's too late. The other thing about having your back to a wall is that if you get backed into a wall or backed into a corner, I like to say the wall has your back. Nobody can get to you from behind. If you're against the wall, it gives you something sturdy to push off from in defending yourself. Somebody coming at you now can only come at you directly from the front, where you have 2 feet, 2 knees, 2 hands, 2 elbows, and your head that you can use in self-defense of yourself.
Yeah, Gary, and when I got to see you live at Symposium, and I have to say that was such an impressive thing to witness, to actually see the different techniques that you teach both notaries and real estate agents to do that. I wish we had your camera so I could see some of that clawing technique that you're.
I'm looking up at the little box there and all the icons, and I'm trying to click on stuff, and nothing is getting my picture there.
That's all right. Well, hopefully they'll get to see you again at another live event soon as you make your way throughout the country.
You bet. Remember, you've got to keep your head on a swivel at all times, no matter where you are, what you're doing. You can't allow yourself to be distracted in public by, say, your cell phone. Okay? A lot of folks have all these apps, and with the apps, they get sent notifications of something that's happening within that app or the community of that app. And in this time of immediate satisfaction with everything, the phone chimes, we pick it up, we look at it, and we have to immediately interact with it. When you're out in public and you do that, it becomes a distraction. A predator is just that. They're a predator. And like the lioness hunting, the gazelle in the Serengeti or wherever she is, she doesn't pick out the biggest, the strongest, the greatest adversary. She picks out the weakest in the herd, because a meal is a meal is a meal. And if the predator in the parking lot at the grocery store sees you as the weakest because you're distracted, you're not paying attention, you're focused on your phone as you're walking, they may very well select you to prey upon. You want to eliminate those possibilities by always being aware of your surroundings, your head up, it's on a swivel, and don't be afraid to look at people when they're looking at you. I'm not saying you want to dog them, okay? You're not there to challenge them, but you want to make that eye contact such that they know you've now got facial recognition with them, and then you go about your business.
That's excellent advice, just to even be more aware than even 90% of the population these days. And I also want to say, guys, that for the most part, we work with amazing people. We work in a safe environment. But as Gary mentioned in the very beginning, there are people who take advantage of this. There are predators who prey on vulnerable individuals. And our goal is just not to be victims.
I've got a statistic here for you. This is from the National Notary Association, a 2015 survey that they conducted. 26% of the respondents said they had been in a hostile or dangerous situation while performing their notary jobs. 13% had actually been prevented from leaving the signing. So you might ask, well, Gary, how does that happen that they get prevented from leaving the signing? For what purpose? In a number of cases, street gangs wanting to falsify documents for whatever their felonious purposes were would gather around the individual, the notary, once they arrived and were inside of the residence, and then threaten them or were keeping them from leaving in hopes of forcing them to notarize the documents that they wanted taken care of. So it does happen. Anytime you become mobile and are out and about, you increase, obviously, the chances for your you to be victimized. And I'm not trying to scare anybody, not trying to put the fear of God into you. I don't want you walking around the world like that in fear. I just want you to be aware that these people exist, that they're out there, and that in some cases they may actually be contacting you for the wrong purposes. And so you have to be hyper alert to these things. And it's just a matter of training and conditioning yourself to do so. I'm that guy who's always got his back to the wall in the restaurant. I know where the exits are. I see the people coming and going. It's hard for people who have lunch or coffee with me because they think that I'm distracted, and I'm not. They have my almost full attention. But that little bit that they don't have is constantly scanning and looking for the threat.
Excellent. That's wonderful. And then, can you talk just briefly? I know we've taken up enough of your time already, and I really appreciate it. But can you talk a little bit about just trusting your gut instinct too? And if you have those feelings, not wanting to go in a particular area, what the alternatives might be?
Everybody's got a sixth sense, a gut reaction to things. Unfortunately, in this day and age of not wanting to offend anybody, a lot of times we dismiss those, and we shouldn't. It's inherent to our being. We don't want to environmentally remove that through the generations going forward, because it's that which kept our predecessors alive in ancient times when there were no bells, no warnings, no alarms, okay, no cell phones. All they had was their instincts, their training and experience, and their gut. If you arrive at a place, a destination where you're going to be doing your work, and you have an uneasy feeling, there's a reason you have an uneasy feeling. You don't need to be able to immediately articulate that uneasy feeling. You have it, you know it's there, it's ominous, and you need to respond to it. Look, all you're talking about missing out on is whatever your fee is. Your life is worth far more than that. And if something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. It's just like there's nothing free, okay? Somebody's promising you something for nothing, it's probably not worth having. Your safety is paramount. Somebody opens the door and their pupils are blown really big and they're rapid fire talking to you. Most likely they're on a stimulant. You probably don't want to go in that house. Little things like that. If the guy just seems creepy to you, if the situation, if the inside of the house, he opens the door, it's the middle of the day and all the curtains are drawn and it's dark inside. If you don't feel comfortable, make an excuse. Make a bad excuse if that's what you have to do. But get out of there. Listen to your gut. You'll be glad that you did.
I love that. And then as Laura was saying too, and I know we actually just talked about this, it's real easy if you have a bad feeling about a particular area or just that weird vibe where you just feel more comfortable doing this in a public place, it is totally acceptable to suggest that you move down to the Denny's, the McDonald's, the Starbucks, whatever it is down the street. If they don't want to do that, then that's usually a red flag for you as well, and you should probably not proceed with the appointment. Guys,
the other thing that I quickly recommend, especially for the ladies, unencumber yourself. You really need to take your purse inside? Probably not. You're not going to be touching up your makeup, that stale piece of gum that's been in the bottom of your purse for 3 months. You're not going to be chewing that, okay? Leave your purse locked in the trunk, secured under your seat. You only need your keys and your cell phone, and then those items necessary to perform your function that you're there for, the work, okay? Taking the purse in is one more item that you would need to grab in a quick exit. It doesn't really make a great weapon. Once you've swung it once, the weight of the purse tends to pull you off target. You're wide open before you can come back with it a second time. So I don't recommend doing that. Unencumber yourself so that you can make a quick exit if that's necessary.
All right. Excellent. Excellent advice. Gary, thank you so much for spending your time with us. I'm going to put your email in the chat window.
Thanks for having me.
Gary Tabke's information is right there. If you have an event or a real estate group, or if you are a realtor and you're interested in learning more about Gary's services, please feel free to reach out to him. Gary, thanks again. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'm sure we'll have you back soon.
Yeah, I'm sorry the video didn't work this morning. I look so pretty.
I'm sure you did. You've been working on that for hours.
Y'all have a good day. Take care.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you for being so warm and welcoming to our guest, Gary, and I see amazing chat conversation going off to the right, so that's wonderful. We want to stimulate ideas and conversation. So now we're going to move right into the last 15 minutes where Laura and Carol are really going to share some valuable information about the information security that's necessary. And before we do that, I just want to kind of share the, hold on. I want to share the, oh, it's in the same place. Bear with me one second. So I'm going to share the federal law. Oh, geez. That.
Graham?
Yeah. Bear with me one second. Sorry, guys. A moment. I'm going to share a little bit about the federal law that that basically regulates this information security. A lot of you have probably heard of this before, but it's the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act, and it's the law that requires financial institutions and any company that offers financial products or services safeguard their customers' sensitive information. And I put the, this is straight from the FTC's website. That's the Federal Trade Commission. That's who is in charge of enforcing the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act. And basically what, this is kind of an overview of what is considered non-public personal information. You need to understand what NPI is. And basically all it is the information that somebody could not reasonably get from the public. That is considered private and personal. And we, as an extension of the closing agent, which is usually a financial institution, as well as the lenders, we are responsible for keeping this information private and secure. So the safeguards that we are responsible for is to ensure the security and confidentiality of that customer's information, protect against any anticipated threats or hazards to the security or integrity of that information. That's going to come into play when Laura starts sharing some information with us a little bit. And then protect against unauthorized access or use of such information that could result in substantial harm or even inconvenience to one of our customers. So with that said, and a little understanding of the law, Laura, I'm going to turn it over to you first to kind of talk about what you've got for us. Okay,
thank you, Bill. And I'm just so excited, first of all, to say that we had Gary with us for, that short amount of time. He gave some valuable information. And, really, if you see him in person, he really helps drive home the point about how to keep ourselves safe. So I'm glad we had that chance to have him. I want to talk about holding, once we print documents, carrying documents, taking them into the home and storing them in our cars, everything that happens until we actually let go of it with the courier. And so the one thing is, it's important, back in the early days, 15 years ago, I used a binder clip and I just binder clipped them together and, stacked them up and there you go. And after my first year of business, I realized more from a marketing perspective, really than a safety perspective, that I really needed to do a better job of identifying, isolating each one of these packages separately by keeping them in their own types of containment. And that containment could be the FedEx envelope that they're going to go in ultimately for shipping. That could be, which I did, a manila. It's got a little gusset at the bottom holder. So, and then I put the customers, their name and the address, property address where I was going on the outside, so I knew who it was and where I was going, and I had each one separated. Doing one appointment is a little different than doing multiple back-to-back. So one appointment, I get in the car, I take it, I go there, I take care of my business, and then when I am done, there's only two options for me. I'm either taking it somewhere to get scanned or faxed at my office or home office, or I'm going right to the courier and I'm dropping it off and I'm letting it go. When I have to handle multiple assignments in the same day that just don't make sense to try to do that every time, now I'm storing these documents throughout the day in my vehicle. And so it's important that we have a way to not make them visible. You know, it doesn't matter what's in your car. If it's golf clubs, if it's visible, it's an invitation for somebody to take a look at it, to get it. It doesn't matter if it wasn't a value to them. They don't know that till they break in. So if you have a hatch, you don't have a trunk, and you have a hatch, they have these covers that come with the cars. If you don't have one, you can throw a blanket over it. But you shouldn't leave anything visible that you have documents sitting in your car. And if you have a trunk, great. I don't have a trunk, I have the hatch. Then you should be moving those things there to make sure they're not left out. Same thing with your tools. Most of us have our bags or our briefcases, whatever they are, in our cars in between, appointments. I know that during the day, I do have mine in there. And again, I have it in the hatch and I throw something over it so nobody can tell what I've got back there, even though my car is identified as that of a notary. And so even particularly more for me, I need to be a little extra careful. But when I run into the dry cleaners, when I run in anywhere, I lock up that car. And a friend of mine just this last year, just in the last quarter of 18, she parked her car to go, I don't know if it was the dry cleaners, but it was that kind of errand. And she was just going to be in there for a couple minutes. And the car was just right outside that place of business. Do you know what? Somebody opened up the back and they stole her bag, her notary bag with all her tools. It was that fast. So one is, no matter how fast it is, keep your car completely locked up, all of it, every time you leave it, because it's not considered a secure storage place for any length of time. And, consider bringing it in at night, every night. Don't leave it in overnight. A lot of stuff happens in the dark. So
good point.
Bring it in at night. And so I already said, separate and identify your multiple packages. And then as I have an opportunity, I get them out of my hands. That's like my main goal. As soon as I get the job done at the table, my goal is how soon can I get rid of those documents and out of my hands, because it's my job until that happens. The thing that Gary started to talk a little bit about was really about when you go into the house and your personal safety. But I want to talk a little bit about our health safety and physical safety, not because of harm from the signers, but because of our own concerns. So for instance, I have asthma and I can go into many homes that have animals and it's not a problem for me. As long as I'm not, rubbing on them, they're okay. Although sometimes when somebody has a lot of animals, particularly a lot of cats, and I have two myself, so I love them, but it affects, well, I have to give a little fist bump to my husband, bye. But it affects my ability to conduct the signing. I start not being able to breathe well, I lose my voice, and I can feel that come on immediately. So when that happens, to save that appointment, I offer. I'm having difficulty with my allergies today, my asthma today. I realize I cannot conduct this signing here. I really need to be in another location. May I buy you a cup of coffee? May we go over to Denny's? I have a personal office if it's in my own area. Would you mind coming to my office? And I find some way to offset the inconvenience that I may have caused by asking them to move. But I do not hesitate to do that. Even though people may push aside their animals and say, oh, I've got them, all locked up. It may not be about the physical animal jumping on you. It's about the air quality and about the appropriateness of the signing location. I just did one and I may have mentioned it. And from the outside, I thought, this is the house of horrors. I sent the location to my husband. Hey, if in 30 minutes, I'm not coming home, you need to search for me. Because I was very, very nervous about doing it, but I was already there. It was still daytime. Okay, I go in and the outside looked good compared to the inside. And there was nowhere. They wanted me to sit on a bed corner and use a pool table as our table. I mean, it was just, seriously, this is not going to work. And I told them, this is just not going to work. I saw there was a McDonald's nearby. Can we please just go over there. Now, he wasn't very excited about needing to go there, but you know what? It is what it is. It wasn't a loan signing. It was a different kind of signing. And we took care of it. And when I got called to go back and do some final papers for this guy, I told the company, listen, I had to move the appointment. I cannot go there. I'm happy to go to the McDonald's. I'm happy to pick him up. I'm happy to buy him a coffee, but I can't go to his home. This is just not going to work for me. There was the papers would have gotten ruined. There was oil, like kitchen oil, not car oil, on all the surfaces. It was just terrible. So don't force yourself to be in an environment that's unhealthy for you, or that may create a problem with your documents, getting them ruined, stained, wet, because you won't do a good job. You'll be worried and you'll be distracted. And that's when, you miss something, and then guess what? You gotta go back. Yikes, you didn't want to be there the first time, and now you gotta go back. I have an office, and most mobile notaries don't. But this is why I got one about 5 years ago, is I needed an alternative space that I could bring a signer to when they didn't want me to come to their home, when the home wasn't appropriate for me to come to, whatever the reason. I had an alternate space, and I rent a cubicle space inside an attorney's office, and then I have access to the conference room, and that's where I conduct those signings. So for some of you who have a lot of business happening, you might want to consider having a second space. Some notaries I've heard, they let customers come to their home. That's mobile, not NSA work. I would never, give out my home address and say, come here, here's my office. I have another space for that. But if you don't have that, a Starbucks, and some Starbucks actually have a second room, a secondary area. I know in my city, there's a couple of them that have a small room. It almost looks like a conference room, but it's an open door. And I would choose to go in there. A Denny's, McDonald's, all of those are okay to do that kind of thing. And then the other thing is when the signer says, you know what, I don't think I'm going to sign these documents, but I want to hold on to them so I can talk to my loan signing agent. I don't leave documents behind unless I have instruction that it's okay. Let me call the title company or the lender, whoever my contact is, and tell them, one, of course, we need to tell them, hey, they don't want to sign. Two, what do you want with the documents? Because sometimes I'm told, do not leave those documents there. They do not belong to the borrower yet. So take them back with you. So the other thing is, don't leave documents there if you have to go and they haven't completed the signing unless you have instruction to do so. Oh gosh, there was one more thing I wanted to cover, but that's okay. I'm going to turn it over to somebody else, and if I remember, I'll put it in the chat.
All right, sounds good. So we're coming right up on the full 1 hour here. And Carol, I know you have a really intriguing story about cybersecurity. So I do have to cut us off in about 2 minutes because I'll be using this Zoom platform for the Legal Shield for Notaries call right after this. So Carol, I definitely want to give you time here, and maybe we can even follow up next week on it if I have to cut you off too early. I apologize for that.
No, and I couldn't get in, so maybe that was meant to be. I should have gone and gotten some breakfast instead. Okay, very quickly. I had something happen a week ago Thursday. Something showed up on my screen, and it was kind of scary. I then called my geeks that I work with, and they had gotten a notification something was going on with my computer. I found out, very scary, when they got me in there, they showed me that the dark web had invaded people from the dark web. At least 15 or 20 of them had invaded my computer. And what that meant is they left behind social security numbers, bank accounts, people's phone numbers, all kinds of information that did not belong to me, and it didn't belong to them. But what they do is they put that on your computer, and then when they steal from people, when they steal IDs and they do all of this horrible things to people, they go through your IP address. If the FBI were to locate some of that and it come back to finding where it was originated, they would come to my computer and see all this information that was on my computer. So it's been a nightmare. What happened is they had to end up erasing my computer completely. And here's what I want to tell everybody. I've been diligent about backing up my computer for every day for years and years and years. I've always backed it up. It used to be on flash drives. I now have such a huge amount of documents and everything that there was no way. So I got a cloud system, and I backed it up diligently every day on my cloud system. Well, we tried to reinstall everything. It took 2 solid days that I could not even use my computer because the cloud is so slow. So what I did find out was the best way to store your information and back up your computer is with, let me set, I'll show this to you. I bought this from Amazon. It was $50. It's a 1 terabyte external hard drive. Never leave it plugged in. Just use it in the evening or whatever and back up your entire computer. It took me a long time last night because this took my all of my information in about 9 hours instead of 2 days, 48 hours. But this is a great device to have. They're inexpensive, and I recommend, I'm certainly going to recommend to my students that you use this for backup. So that's the only thing I have to say.
I think that's great advice. And those things run just about $50 on Amazon.
About $50. Get a big one, a big, 1 terabyte.
All right. And it's a 1 terabyte. What do you call it?
It's an external hard drive.
Hard drive. There you go, Irene. All right, guys, I got to cut it off right here. I'm so sorry. I got the Legal Shield for Notaries call right after this. But thank you, Carol. Thank you, Laura. And thank you to everybody who showed up today, spending your Tuesday growing yourself and your business. We love being here and we love having you. Have a great week.
Bye, everybody.